How do we awaken and stay that way? What is duality? There's a lot of stuff out there as people are looking to try and, what is this inner path to peace? What do we do? What I'm going to do in this video is sample an Eckhart Tolle video. It's an old one where he talks about his awakening. And then I'm going to go into more detail on that. Let's discuss it and see what we can come up with for ourselves. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. Here's Eckhart Tolle.
It was in my 29th year. I woke up in the middle of the night, and this was not uncommon for me, waking up in the middle of the night and feeling intensely depressed and in a state of great fear at the same time. And that happened again that night, and the thought occurred to me, I can't live with myself any longer. And that thought repeated itself in my mind. I can't live with myself. And then suddenly I looked at the thought. I kind of stood back from that thought and looked at it and said, that's a strange thought. I cannot live with myself. Am I one or am I two? This thought seems to show that there's two people here. I and the self that I cannot live with. I didn't have an answer to that question. It's just that question, that puzzle arose in my mind. Much later, it reminded me of koans that they have in Zen, that are puzzles that are designed to stop the mind. For example, what is the sound of one hand clapping is a famous koan. And it doesn't have an answer on an intellectual level, and so the question that arose in my mind also didn't have an answer on an intellectual level. Who am I, and who is myself that I cannot live with? But that question triggered an inner shift. Something inside me, and I didn't understand it at that point, must have disidentified from the self, the unhappy me, as I later called it. So a kind of an inner disidentification happened. The I am, which I later recognized as the consciousness that I am, separated itself from the conditioned entity, the conditioned consciousness that provided me with my sense of identity, the self. And that consisted largely of an unhappy story. So then I felt I was like being drawn into some kind of vortex of energy, as if I were disappearing in that. And there was still a moment of resistance. And I heard something almost like a voice inside me that said, resist nothing. So I gave up resisting the feeling of, almost the feeling of disappearing into nothingness. And so that, don't remember very much else of that night. All I know is that the next morning I woke up and I opened my eyes and I looked around the room, and everything seemed as if I was seeing it for the first time. Fresh, new, alive. The light coming through the windows, familiar objects on the table. They looked fresh, new and alive. So I got up and went out for a walk, and I looked around, and everything seemed so peaceful. Even the traffic in the city seemed so peaceful, and I knew something strange had happened. There was suddenly, everything was filled with aliveness and peace, and I didn't know why. And that went on, and then this inner peace as the background to all experiences and the background to all sense perceptions, even as the background to my thinking, that then never really left me again. But it took me a long time to understand it, to be able to put it into words. And so a little later I started investigating other spiritual teachings for the first time, Buddhism, Christianity, and more contemporary spiritual teachings. And very quickly I recognized the truth that is in many cases hiding underneath sometimes centuries of cultural additions, interpretations and misinterpretations, and I could see the truth that's in Buddhism, that's in Christianity, the original teachings.
Do you hear what he just said? Christianity, the original teachings from Jesus. Yeah. I've got videos up on that. Jesus taught like a Buddha taught. Christianity said worship the teacher.
And in turn, they shed light on what had happened to me. For example, I picked up the New Testament and I read Jesus' words, "The peace that passes all understanding." I said, that's exactly what I feel. I have this peace and I don't understand what it is. So he must have had the same experience. Peace suddenly arose, which was not causally related to anything in the external world. It wasn't caused by something wonderful happening in my external environment. So it didn't seem to have a cause, an external cause.
All right, I want to stop right there and talk about a couple of things. First of all, he's right in the material. And at the end of the video, I'll forewarn everybody before I get there, but I'm going to go show exactly what he went through right there, where that appears in the Babylonian and Numa Elish, the creation myth, where it shows up in Genesis in a number of places. It'll even show up in all the way down in the end, the apocalyptic Christian book of Revelation. It's going to show the same thing. But what he's describing right there is that higher awareness. I've talked about this in some of my videos. When you're doing that, that's a normal thing. You toss and turn. It seems to be something built in 3, 4 in the morning when you've got issues. That's when you wake up and your mind is just going through this turmoil and you can't shut it off. It's like, I got this to worry about. You got that to worry about. You're going through this. For me, it used to be this way. I don't know if it is for other people. I think it probably is. It sounds like it. This is what happened to him. I didn't experience exactly like him, but I didn't realize this at first, but later on I began to realize it. That is, as this is going on, all these issues are churning below the surface and you're experiencing them in your consciousness. But every once in a while, you'll notice this part of you that steps in. It's like it's trying to talk to you and provide some peace and give you direction until you let it go. There's nothing you can do tonight. And while that's happening, you kind of feel detached from it. That's exactly it right there. That's the higher awareness. We can get there in our awakened state just by sitting there and you go think about your memories, the stuff that bothers you, the things that have to that are not resolved, that haunt you, and you will feel and experience them. Now, step outside of yourself. Look at yourself from a distance, from an outside perspective, from a place that certain people can get there in their mind. You will feel detached from yourself. What he's describing is living through the memories, and somehow in his experience, in his understanding that those were his memories and that they weren't really him, that was all it took, and boom, he let it go. I don't know if there's more to it than that. It didn't work that way for me. It wasn't exactly like that. But you hear about other people saying, yep, I did this meditation, I did this sort of thing, something happened and boom, it just went. It didn't work that way for me. And the material actually doesn't. Actually, what the material does, there's a flood. The flood is wiping out the entire world. If you think about that, if you think about this, the world is me, it's my world experience, and I've got all of these issues that I've got. Can you, in one moment, sit there and go, oh, I am not those memories. Poof, I can escape them and rise above them. Can you do that? I think some people can, but I think it might depend on the nature of what the memories are and something else. I could not do that. I could never just look at my life and go, I get it. Oh yeah, I let it go. No, there were still things in me that continued to trigger and act out when I wasn't paying attention. So those had to be gone after. I did not have a single moment of poof, it went like that. I had some really uplifting experiences. There was a time where I was I'd been molested when I was a kid. I was so ashamed of that. I held that so tight, and it was a humongous thing that really hurt me. And as I'm going through this, I'm realizing, man, I got to tear this stuff down. And part of the process is to be able to communicate or be able to talk about this stuff freely. And that was a very difficult thing. I told a friend that I trusted very much about it. And it was a difficult thing. And when the person was like, yeah, really, that's it? it's ruined your life? Really? You hold on to it like that. And in that moment, it felt like it was maybe 2 weeks before my feet touched the ground again. We get under, it's not real weight, but we get under a psychological weight, an emotional weight, carrying this baggage. And when it happens, we get really, it'll make you feel low. People call that low energy, high energy. What it is the emotional state. Eventually we get used to carrying that though, and it becomes your normal state of being. When you lift it up, or when you let it go like that, it's like lifting off a huge load. It'll feel like that. It felt that way for me. It was like, oh my God, the world is completely different. However, in about 2 weeks, it went back to normal again. There was the next thing that had to happen. What happens Noah after the flood? He wipes out everything. His son, out of shame, cover him back up. He was naked, which meant that he had uncovered everything, but there's still other issues. So this is going to go on in a cyclical program of going back and healing and healing and healing again. But the idea here is to get to that part. Go to that mental place right there, what he's talking about. When we're going on our walks, now this is something that happened to me naturally. I didn't realize I was doing it. I spent so much time hiking and weekends off on my own, solo trips in the mountains. I would disconnect from things. I would let it go. I was going to my higher awareness and didn't know it. I didn't know it. I was just out there letting things go. And I didn't know what I was doing. Later on, you go, oh, you know what? That's exactly what I need to do when I'm back in the world, when things are not okay. Now, I think that it's also really going to depend on the individual and what you have that you have to, it's easier for me to let people off the hook that hurt me, but it's harder for me to let myself off the hook if I've hurt somebody else. There's restitution. There was things that I had to do for myself that were pretty difficult. It was just a home of abuse and suicide and things that were really not okay. That's not the issue at this point. The issue at this point is learning that higher awareness is where you go to. Now, this is what I want to talk about the material. So if you want to practice that, that's really what you want to do. Living from that higher state. Get there. Things are really got you frazzled, stop and go, whew, practice getting to this other place up here where, yeah, this stuff is going to happen. It's there, but do I need to feel it? Do I need to experience that? Also, if somebody has got a job, everything is okay, life is more or less fine, you don't have a lot of issues, this becomes a very easy process. If you're homeless and you're looking for your next meal, you're not going to get there. This is not something that you can just say, oh, here's what you do. Just stop feeling bad about things. Humans, we evolved feeling fear to drive us away from things, and joy as we're moving towards things. If you don't have one, you're going to have the other somehow. You're looking for a way to not experience the two or to experience good. But you can't experience good without experiencing bad. This is a tough thing. You're looking to just let go of all of it and have a flow through life. There is a verse attributed to Jesus in the Bible that says that very thing. It's metaphorical. We have to interpret it. But it's the one that says if you come to the altar to leave a gift, and while you're there, you remember you have aught against your brother, set your gift down. Don't even give it. Go resolve the ought first, and then come back, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. You don't even have to give the gift. That's a non-factor. What is this? We're looking for a better flow in life. We want a good life, and that's why we're going to the altar to leave a gift, presumably. I'm invoking something out there to give me good graces. However, it's not going to happen because I've got issues is the real problem. The stuff that I'm holding at a deep level is what is the real issue. It's also the mote in my eye. Then when that is taken care of, when the issues are resolved, they no longer cycle out. Your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. Your life now automatically becomes better by releasing the things that are bad for us. So the enlightenment seems like for some people it can be in a moment like that. For me, it wasn't. I had to go back and I had to address a lot of things. There was still stuff that were very tough to get to, things that were hidden away, things that I learned to find on my own that were, I named it chasing ghosts, but they're ghosts within me. It would be like, I don't know what this issue is. I've got something that's just, I can't even get a hold of it. I would go off on a walk out on the desert, in the desert. I wouldn't think about anything. I would just start looking at the sagebrush and the well, that lichens is very cool. The colors are vivid, all that kind of stuff. And at some point, as I'm wandering around, I would recall it. I started doing this habitually because it would work this way. I would become aware that I'm remembering something from my childhood. Okay, imagine this mechanism. When you're talking to somebody and you're trying to remember the name of a movie or an actor or a song or lyrics or something, and you're like, oh, I can't. But then later it comes to you. When you're not thinking about it. It's that same mechanism right there. It'll work. You want to know what the issue is. Then later on, I'm going, why? This is a childhood memory. I'm sitting in the woods crying. Why is that happening? And then I look at what's going on around there, the teasing or whatever, going, having another class in church sing happy birthday to me and give me a birthday party like a couple of weeks after my brother hung himself. And I don't know why, but it really destroyed me. Those were memories that I had because I was like, you guys, this is just pity. I lost my brother. You're giving me a cootie bug and a Mr. Potato Head. Yeah, it was not okay. But those were memories that I would go back, and if I visited them, I would cry. I would think, oh yeah, that's it right there. It's stored this way. So I knew it was okay, but myself back then never got acknowledged. So it's just a stored memory that has to be updated. So I would go and acknowledge myself. Hey, you know what? It's going to be okay in the future. You're going to get this resolved. There's a bigger you out here, but there's parts of you that can be still held in memory that are acting out. Those become difficult. I had to do that. And some people go, oh, that's just over the top. Can't you let it go? I'd be like, no, this is bothering me. I have to resolve it somehow. And working it through, letting some stuff you can let go. Yeah. There are other things that I couldn't. And I don't know why. When they're there, you have to deal with them. So, okay. And the only reason I'm talking about this right now is to demonstrate the engagement of the higher awareness in the consciousness with the self. The consciousness is in the driver's seat. It's the one that is either sitting there going, oh, I'm experiencing these memories, or it becomes aware of that and says, oop, I'm going to stop doing that and go to the higher awareness. These memories are going to still, maybe they have to be resolved, maybe not. But you have to get to that higher awareness all the time as much as possible anyway. You can't just sit here and live in the memories and not do anything about it. You have to learn to get to the higher awareness. You have to get outside of this is that part of you that is a bundle of memories that you're living through. You're not your bundle of memories, which now brings me to the next point. What showed up? Who is this other self? How is it in the material? This self existed before your memories did. However, we didn't have the cognition to know that. We lived through our higher awareness. That's going to show up in the material when we get there, that this God, this higher awareness is there in the beginning and then disappears until after stuff goes bad and then returns later. We're going to see that as a common motif in the stories, that early on, well, what we have here in the Enuma Elish, for example, is Apsu, who was the creator of all, and Tiamat, the mother who gave birth to all. So that's right in Tablet 1, Apsu is the creator. What happens through the Enuma Elish is that they create gods. Gods are created, but what this is that your qualities are coming online. They're called gods because they go bad. This is us living life, and they get out of control. And that's why they're called gods. They're not really gods. They're metaphorically parts of us that have gone bad, that have control over us. And during that time frame, Apsu is captured and put away. So Apsu is not, the creator is not available. However, when Marduk, the called hero, comes back and destroys the earlier self, Apsu returns at that time. He frees Apsu. Now, if we go to the book of Genesis, what we're going to see is something similar. It doesn't say it verbiage-wise, but if you read where God is involved, the last time God is involved in the beginning is protecting Cain. And then gone is God until when? When men begin to invoke the name of God after many generations of Adam, of all kinds. It's like a godless world completely until it's time for the flood, and God comes back and goes, well, man, they're all a bunch of sinners. I'm just going to wipe it all out and start over. Okay, so that's why was God gone that entire time? When men begin to invoke the name of God was right before the sons of God going into the beautiful daughters of men, which represents the gods that were here that went bad. What we have here is the beautiful daughters of men that were corrupted by the sons of God and gave birth to giant offspring that were in the world then and are today, which represents what? They're gods too. They're bad things. They're big bad things that we don't have control over, that need to be destroyed. Then when we get down to the Abram and Sarai story, we see the cycle of it starting over again, where they're starting from a place where God puts them in a land of famine, talks to them a little bit, and then disappears. They have to leave. There's a famine in the land. They create an altar, but then leave it all behind, go to Egypt. Abram gives up his wife Sarai to Pharaoh to marry and gets slaves and animals in return. There's this whole story that you go, what? Where's God? You're doing what? No, that can't be true. It's metaphorical. It's that higher awareness that we have that disappears. It doesn't disappear. It's there our entire life, but we don't know it. We have to live life experiences, learn, develop, and then certain people will find their way back to understanding this and realize that now that I am aware and have the mental capacity to do so, I can reconnect with this higher awareness, resolve my memories, and live free of them. I can elevate myself up above them. Here we see it in Christian material in the book of Revelation. It's right, where are we? Right in the very first chapter, verse 17. And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead, and he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, Fear not, I am the first and the last. I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. I am he that lives and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. That's the higher awareness talking to us, saying, yep, I was here in the beginning, and I was dead. You let me go, and now you return back to me. I'm here forevermore. So this would be the time actually where, if you are following a monomyth, that's where that picks up, where the called person comes back into the picture, righteous before God, or something like that. In Jewish material, that would be it. Yeah. So, okay, what else do we have here then? That's what, when Eckhart talks about that point right there where he saw those two things, that's the return of this higher self right there. Mine was, we probably all are bouncing back and forth between that our entire lives. We just aren't aware of it. And if you were to stop and focus on it and become aware of the idea that, oh, now that I get it, this is where I need to be living from, not through the memories, but from up here. And somehow I need to extract myself either, through forgiveness or whatever it takes, so that whenever I remember something from my past, it's no longer something that hurts me. It may not be something that makes me feel good, but it should be something that no longer hurts you. The energy of it is what you're living through. So to resolve the energy of it is how to resolve it and to change the flow of your own life. Okay, so I guess that's it for this video. I'm not sure what else to say on it. That's what on a day-to-day basis, as we're getting caught up in things, if you can just remember that. I guess the only other thing would be to have maybe some sort of things placed as memory items. I've got these little rock cairns that I glued together and put them up around there just as they're like little home decor things, but they serve as reminders to me. Oh yeah, higher awareness. They're little signals to me. I used to wear a kind of a necklace reminder thing with a yin yang symbol whenever I was like washing my hands at the sink or something like that in the restroom. I would, you look up and go, oh yeah, there's always this reminder. It's like, do this. I don't like wearing stuff anymore. But there was a time where I was just doing everything I could to try to, oh yeah, remember, shift. and I began to realize that when I was out on my weekend adventures, my solo adventures, that's what I was doing. So it became something that I could engage with much easier once I knew that that's what it was. And then from there, that's what you're using to heal the memories with. You do have to talk to other people. You got to find good friends you can talk to, but you're really using your higher awareness coupled with your memories, both at the same time in the consciousness, to visit them until you can find comfort with them. You look at them in all the possible ways you can. What you need to do is change the energy of the way they feel. And if that's done, forgiveness will have happened. Don't even worry about forgiving the other person. If you forgive the other person, it's because the perception has changed. Just forgive the perception. Most of the time we try to forgive people and we don't change the perception, and we say, I forgive them. I don't ever want to see them again. I hate them. They're not the right kind of person, but the forgiveness didn't really happen. We're still holding on to it. So we have to know that by looking at it in our own mind and go, how do I feel about it? That's how you measure it. Okay, yeah, surf the emotions, but don't let them win. You use them to find out what's there. Explore a memory. How does it feel? Don't live through the feelings and don't leave the feeling in place. Yeah, there you go. But understanding that higher awareness is what we're stepping to. That's what Eckhart went to in that video right there. That's the higher awareness saying, hey, I'm back. Guess what? You're living through your memories. You don't have to do that. Okay, I hope you found the video helpful and interesting. And comments, questions, feel free to put them below. See you in the next video.